Well, it's 35. We're going overtime here on the beginning, so I guess we should begin. Welcome to the April Imaging SIG meeting, the first of many, hopefully, that will be an online web conference style Imaging SIG meeting. And although I do hope that we can meet together in person soon, at least getting somebody to present this way is very attractive because we can get presenters from very far away and not have to have them travel. So I think this is very promising for our group to get presenters. We already have a couple lined up. Gary Lopez is probably he's going to be joining us next month. And anyway, we are going to have an open discussion tonight and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. If you want to show us some of your recent images or talk about projects you've been doing, please feel free. And Glenn he is going to talk about his experience with 3D printing and how it's been helping him in the hobby. And I can say from experience, it's been helping me in the hobby too. As a matter of fact, I'm on the verge of getting a 3D printer myself because it has been so helpful to make various things that we need. And it's amazing that you can just make it in your house now instead of getting it from precise parts and putting an order in and getting it a month later maybe. So Glenn, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I can do that. Let me share a window here. And
hi, I think you're presenting.
We cannot hear you. Hi.
You're on mute.
We can see you.
So my hack doesn't work, huh?
Okay.
Oh, wow. What happened to the background? I can see your house.
Oh, man.
Can you guys see my Word document here?
Yes, we can see. We can see your list. Fantastic.
Okay, so I didn't make a whole PowerPoint or anything. Bruce just told me about this afternoon, but I did make a list of things that I have 3D printed that were for astro imaging. So one of the latest things was just lens caps or dust covers. So when I've got parts of scopes exposed, or I am using a camera lens right at the moment, and just with that, a little 50 millimeter Orion guide scope to do the guiding, and somehow I lost the dust cover for that, or the lens cap for that. So when I went to do a new profile in PhD2, I didn't have anything to cover the lens with, but 20 minutes later, I had a 3D printed cap that fit right on it. So that's cool. And of course, lots of threaded adapters / spacers for people and myself, using these different threads listed here are some of the ones I've done. And Paulo is working on improving the thread library that we're using, and also on figuring out how to get the threads right the first time versus having to print 4 or 5 different versions to account for the material expansion and whatnot. Then I've done some just essentially washers, and did this adapter for Bruce to help get his camera adapter centered in his Raza 11-inch, and that's still a work in progress, I guess. Mounting hardware, lots of stuff for camera lenses and mounting and focusing that stuff. Things that connect to the back of your camera and form a strain relief. And this was important as part of my DIY rotator project so that all the wires came off in one place in kind of the center of things, and so that the whole thing could rotate and not get hung up on the wires. Yeah, and then what are called follow focus gears. Right now I guess that's something else I could talk about tonight, is now I have an adapter for Canon lens that uses the motors inside the lens to focus. But before that, I had kind of a semi-DIY rig where we had gears and stepper motors to move the body of the lens. And so those were all 3D printed, and made some 2-inch filter storage boxes for Bruce, right? And because he's for the RASA, you know, he's not going to have a filter rotator. He's going to have a tray that he puts in one at a time. So we need something to store those in. Paulo designed a really cool focuser for off-axis guiders, and so I've got one of those and he's got one. We both have the same off-axis guider. Filter wrenches, and then for my DIY rotator project, there was a bunch of stuff, the gears and belts and the project box and the stepper motor mount. I mounted my solar scene scintillation monitor with 3D printed stuff. And can you see all the way to the bottom here, the materials? That was, can you see the materials where I am on the screen here, somebody?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
So nylon carbon fiber is what I started with for the astronomy parts. And that's good, except it's got kind of a rough finish. And so now Paulo and I have been moving on to ASA. It's a different type of plastic. It's also good for outdoors, and it has a smooth finish. So we think it might be better for finer threads. And then some of the flexible parts that need to flex or stretch, I made out of a material called TPU. And that can be either translucent, like Bruce's, I guess Bruce's filter box is actually made out of PLA, which I didn't list here. But anyway, the TPU can be either translucent or colored. So just some of the stuff that I've done. And then I think when I first presented on 3D printing in Astro many moons ago, in the PowerPoint I did for that, there were lots of examples of designs of things, including whole telescopes that you could download and 3D print. So usually I don't design everything from scratch. I'll just go to Thingiverse and search for, you know, whatever, a lens cap or something, and then tweak it from there. So that's the
Glenn?
3D printing. Yeah.
One question, and then maybe you said it. What printer are you using for this?
Oh, let me stop sharing for a second. Maybe you can see my screen if I mean my camera if I do that.
I can actually see it. Is it behind you?
Well, I have two now. So this one that I'm pointing at is the first one I got, and that's has an enclosure, and that's good for the carbon fiber. It needs to be higher temperature, and it needs to be enclosed, and the material actually spool is inside that enclosure as well. And then I can't see my camera, but if I turn it a little bit, over here, Paulo and I both have this FL Sun QQ-S Delta printer, and we're using that for the ASA and some of the other materials, and it's a little faster, and it's a different style of printer, but it has its advantages and disadvantages. Okay, trying to put my camera back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I have a MakerBot replicator, and boy, that thing is not good for anything serious printing. It's good for toys, but any better material or something, because it doesn't have a heated bed or anything.
Oh,
it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So the FL Sun QQ-S is not going to do like the nylon, and even I think for the ASA, Paulo is like enclosed his. I'm still doing it unenclosed, but it's fairly versatile that way. And then the QI-DI X Max can do pretty much everything. You know, it can because they give you two extruders, two hot ends, one for higher temperature stuff and one for lower temperature stuff. So that's one reason why I have two printers, is I have the QI-DI set up just for the carbon fiber, the high temperature, and then the other one I use for the lower temperature materials.
So you said Paulo is enclosing his because of the ASA. Is that because of the strong smell when you're using ASA versus the other stuff, or?
Well, ASA is not as strong smelling as some of the other, like ABS or something, but it does have some odor. But the ABS in particular and ASA is much better, but ABS is hard to print because it warps really easy if you don't have a constant temperature enclosure. So it'd be really hard to print ABS without an enclosure. And to a certain extent, I guess the ASA, but I've been doing all right without the enclosure for the ASA. But I might not be printing as big of things as Paulo is. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry. I was going to ask, are there any concerns about the longevity of like the threads or the strength of that stuff? It seems like, that they're pretty fine parts, and, is it the kind of thing that you thread it in once and never worry about it? Or if you're taking it out, maybe it breaks or anything?
So most of the things that I've done as threaded adapters have been prototypes. So it's like you need something, and so you print it up and use it while you're waiting for the metal part to arrive. I know, I think Paulo, I made him an adapter that goes from his short tube 80 all the way down to his guide scope. And I think he's had that outside for quite a while. But, there's bits and pieces of not threaded adapters, but, my whole rotator and stuff has been outside for months now. And it's been fine. So yeah, I guess, kind of use at your own risk kind of thing, but we keep learning more about the materials and making sure that they're UV resistant and all of that stuff. So I think it's probably just a good idea, like anytime. One of the first tips I learned about astrophotography from the Orion store, believe it or not, was when you hook your camera to a telescope, flip the shoulder strap up over the guide scope or something, so that if something does come loose, at least your camera doesn't hit the ground. And I think if I was, and I'm probably giving Bruce this advice, yeah, here's this adapter you asked me to make for your multi-$1,000 CCD camera, right? So put some string or something just in case this thing dissolves in an instant or something, just in case. Yeah. So that would be the just an extra safety measure, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you and Paulo actually have been talking about injecting hot glue into holes that you're drilling in these things. And I guess they have tracks inside the way that it's laid so that the hot glue can actually, or epoxy can get injected and push through the entire object and come out the other end and make it
Yeah, well,
stronger?
this is about how to make things stronger without printing them stronger, because you can print them completely solid, or you can print them with what's called infill that could be anywhere from 5% to solid, but that takes a long time. So people have been experimenting with injecting some kind of plastic inside the 3D printed part to make it stronger. So two candidates are hot glue and epoxy. And the hot glue is a cheap material, cheaper than the 3D filament. So that was something we were experimenting with, but I wouldn't say it's successful yet. This is a part here that I had to drill multiple holes in. It's a lens filter wrench. And I tried to get the hot glue in there, and it didn't, it works for a while, but then the glue cools off. So we're still trying to figure that out. But yeah, that's a work in process.
Okay.
Yep.
I can screen share and show you guys a little bit of what I used, how I used something that Glenn made me recently. So hold on a second. I started this thread on Cloudy Nights. It was based on a thread that was done by another guy who goes by the handle AP Shooter. And he's a Raza owner. He owns a Raza 8. And he and other people that have Razas have noticed that the Raza has a collar that you use to lock down the camera. Maybe I should show you guys that. Let's see, where is my, there we go. Okay, so I have a picture of that somewhere. Okay, so the Raza has this threaded collar, and it goes over the plate that is attached to your extensions that are attached to your camera.
Up against the back.
And they go on the front of the Raza, and basically it attaches the plate that holds everything, including the camera, to the front of the Raza. The Raza, unlike most telescopes, it's similar to a hyperstar. Your camera goes on the front, and it makes it an extremely fast setup. But when you're tightening down this threaded collar, there's a lot of play, and the plate can move down left and right. Actually, the stock plate, which has some drawbacks, doesn't move quite as much as the aftermarket plate that improves on some things a lot, but also it's a little bit thinner compared to, here's a stock plate, and here is the Botter made USC.
Are you sharing something?
I'm sorry.
Are you sharing?
Oh yeah, I'm sharing.
Okay, I don't see it. Does anybody else see it?
Yeah, actually, I think, I'm sorry. I'm seeing a lot of you, actually. I'm seeing a hall of mirrors of you. There we go. So, shared. Can't share your screen. I'm having a screen sharing problem. Maybe it might have to do with the other thing that I was sharing was not on Chrome. Can you guys see me now? Here, let me present again.
Are you presenting?
Yeah, I hit present.
Did you click present now?
I did click present now.
No, we only see you, which is nice.
Hold on.
But
Yeah, we still see your face.
How about now?
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Now it looks like it switched over. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This is the stock adapter plate that it's threaded on one side. It threads down onto the front of a Raza, onto this this thing right here, which contains some corrector lenses, and it flattens things out. like a Schmidt camera. If you're familiar with Schmidt cameras, they're extremely fast. I think they made them back in the 70s. The only problem was that they required a curved piece of film inside the camera in order to work. And the Rosette was designed so that it could be similar to a hyperstar, extremely fast. It has the camera on the front rather than at the back of the telescope. And the design of the Roe Ackerman Schmidt astrograph has these lenses in the center that flatten things out, and basically you attach your camera using a threaded collar to this device at the front of the telescope. So the stock plate looks like this, and I don't know why I did that. So the stock plate looks like this. You can get an aftermarket plate that is supposed to decrease tilt, and it uses extensions that are held in by grub screws and dovetails. So it basically allows you to get the camera to the front of the telescope distance down to extremely narrow margin, and it keeps it solid, and it keeps it perpendicular, and keeps you from having tilt. But this plate that I'm measuring here with my micrometer, with my calipers, unfortunately, is a little bit thinner than the stock plate. And because of that difference, as you thread this collar onto it, it actually can move around. I know I have a video of me doing that, but I'm not sure which one it is. But anyway, basically, wait a sec. I think it's this one. Nope, it's not. I should have found it earlier. Sorry, guys. So anyway, the thing is that as you're screwing it down, the camera can move up, down, left, and right. And there's no way that you can really tighten down that collar and hit the same spot every time and keep the camera centered. You're basically, you can try and guide it in there just by looking around it, but it's not very precise. And if the camera's not in the sweet spot, particularly if your camera has a large sensor, you're going to have more vignetting. You're going to have maybe some exaggerated tilt on the edge of your sensor, and Glenn was able to 3D print a ring that goes into this threaded collar. Looks something like that. Goes inside here and allows you to basically guide in the camera plate, the adapter plate, as you screw down that collar there, the threaded collar. And so when I started, actually, initially I was seeing a problem like this. I was seeing tilt on one side, and it was pretty flat on the rest. Part of that is due to the camera distance, but also part of it was due to the camera not being centered. And we were able to scale up a ring that they had designed for the Rosette 8 and use it on my Rosette 11. And so Glenn was able to print it up for me, and I was able to, every time I put the camera in there, as you thread down that collar, you feel that it's really centering. It doesn't have any slop around it, and it flattened things out a lot. And I still have a lot of tweaking to do, but I'm really happy with the way that it worked. And I've had him make me some other adapters, and Paolo made me a nice adapter recently. So basically what I'm saying is the 3D printer is an amazing tool for astrophotographers. So anybody have any images they want to share, or any projects that you guys have been working on lately? Anything else? I know, PJ, you've got some new images.
Actually, I've had the usual run-of-the-mill cable issues. And I have been using the Vaj 11 for several years now, and I have encountered some problems with the telescope, which are similar to what Bruce is going through, but they're also different. I also have somewhat of a different take on the issues with the Vaj. The retaining ring that Bruce talks about to tighten down is called a lock collar. And it's about 4 inches in diameter, and it screws down onto the rotor. And it requires a fair amount of torque to hold the camera assembly in place. The difficulty with that is that if it's not tight enough, the entire assembly will sag, resulting in a very obvious tilt of the entire focal plane. If you tighten it up too much, and it has happened to me, the lock collar can gall against the roll corrector, necessitating a trip down to Torrance, California, where they could take it apart, recalibrate the entire telescope, and send it back to me on their dime. I have come up with a design that instead of a lock collar having to torque down on a roll corrector in order to hold the camera assembly in place, thus putting a severe amount of torque on something that is not engineered to handle it, such that the whole roll corrector can spin inside the Schmidt plate, which is probably not a good thing. I have figured out a way to put, instead of lock collar compressing, I'm going to be able to put lock collar in tension, and it will require much less torque to do that and to hold the camera assembly very rigidly in tension against the lock collar. So it won't be a lock collar, it'll be a tension ring. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this made. It has to be out of metal. Plastic won't be able to handle the stresses. But I may just see if anybody at Precise Parts can actually look at what I want to do and see if they can make it. It's not quite fits in within their computer-aided design parameters that they have on their website. So it's going to be a little bit more custom to pull this off. That being said, I think that's a solution in conjunction with what Glenn and Bruce are doing. What they have done is create a centering ring, which will help center the camera on there. I'm concerned about sag in the entire optical path as an issue. However, I've been using a QHY 168C color camera, and I have come to the conclusion that it is unsuitable to be used with the RASA. The RASA and the camera is that the RASA is has a cone of about, I calculated out about 26 degrees angle coming in. Now the advertising material for the camera shows that they say it's fully multi-coated. If you read the fine print on the Sony chip that the camera uses, the cover plate directly over the sensors comes with the Sony sensor is not anti-reflective coating. So what that means is that when you have very steep angle coming in, the light goes else, goes inside the the decant chamber, hits the sensor. That light now becomes a principle of Huygens, becomes a light source. It now reflects off the back of the cover glass right in front of the sensor and reflects back to the sensor, thereby creating a halo that in any kind of medium bright star is about 90 pixels in diameter. It is pervasive. It happens every time. It is very obvious that when you see a globe, when you if you try and pixel size, you see these stars that are just globes. I actually came up, derived an equation that will calculate how wide this globe is depending on the F number. It's only dependent on the F number. So that equation also showed me that if I were to use camera on about a f4.5 optical system, it should work great. So that is what I'm doing now. I've retired. I have sent the Rosette to the bench, and I have resurrected my 6-inch Newtonian astrograph, which I built about 8 years ago. And so that's what I'm doing, is getting that all fired up to do it. It is very cheap to build, and it's just a Newtonian 6-inch, but already the test shots show that I do not have a discernible halo. I have to look really close to show that it's that very minute halo does pretty well match my calculation on how big it would be. So I was actually able to calculate the space between the sensor and the cover glass on the sensor itself using this geometry. I used to be a surveyor. So your cosines and tangents and all that good stuff come in handy on that kind of thing. So that's where I'm at now. I have QHY168 attached to my 6-inch Newtonian, which is on a MX Plus mount. So I've been having fun, dialing that telescope in. I'm ready to give it a full run later on as this meeting progresses. Any questions?
I was going to say, at some point I tried to get Ashley to make me something that was not in his web configurator, and he steadfastly refused to do it. So Precise Parts might not want to make anything unless it can be generated on their website. So it's unfortunate, but
well, is there machinists in the house?
Actually, I ran across a machinist. I think it's Michael's machinist's shop in San Jose, and I had a serious 11-pound weight that I wanted to use with my Atlas Pro, and it needed to be bored out a little bit. And he was more than happy to help me out. As a matter of fact, he insisted not to bill me for any of the work. He would not take money. He did want me to send people in his direction, so I highly recommend him. And he seemed very willing to do something custom. So he's local and a very nice guy. So you could at least give him a call.
That sounds like a really good resource. Of course, I'm actually 150 miles away up by Yosemite, where I'm hanging out for the last 6 weeks, avoiding the COVID thing, because I'm one of those patients that don't want to get it. Very definitive.
So what I hear Bruce saying is the deal is Bruce gets stuff for free and the rest of us pay. Do I have that right?
Nothing new there, I guess.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme to me. No, it would actually be great if you could pass it around, Bruce, because I still need an adapter to put my 10-micron mounts on my Astrophysics Eagle here. and I could never figure it out. It's not that difficult to make. It doesn't need to be super precise. It's just a solid block of steel or of metal that you basically need. And then I could never find a way how to do this myself. You definitely can't 3D print it. So having something like this would be awesome here locally.
I'll look his number up.
Cool, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
And I will tell him that you sent me.
Excellent, thank you.
I just wanted to mention, it's not that I dislike you guys, but I have this mouse dyslexia where wherever I want to mute myself, I hit the hang up button instead. So forgive me for that.
No problem. I'm going to have to look for it. But Hi, do you have any images you wanted to share? Or Glenn, I know you had some stuff that you did recently.
I actually had something for Hi.
Ah, what's that?
Well, let me attempt to.
Because I liked your green image and nobody else did. Is that it?
Because you commented on the star, the halos that were coming from stars just outside of my crop. I think this is
that's right. I remember that. I was saying that I meant what exactly you said, which was that when I said crop, I didn't mean crop with Photoshop. I meant, yeah, by moving your telescope.
Are you guys seeing Photoshop?
No,
Black screen.
Yeah.
Black
no,
screen.
Okay, I might not be able to. It said NVIDIA overlay. Let me try again here and see if I can get it to. I might have to pick the screen versus a window. Let me try this. How does it know which screen? Okay. How about now?
It's starting. Yes.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, so this image, this is just the HA stack. It's not a finished image. And you see here, this up at the top, there's a bright star that's just outside of the crop, but I didn't want to crop out this nebulosity. And then there's also one just outside the bottom here. It's a little harder to see, but and so was trying to figure out how to deal with that, and I came up with something that works pretty good, and it's pretty simple, and it's a variation of selection modifications that I was taught to do by somebody on the internet. I have no idea who, but what I ended up doing was just drawing a line around the transition, making a selection here, and then Paulo needs to mute, I think.
Somebody speaking Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So what I came up with was, then I modify that by contracting it. Whoops, sorry. Contracting it by 16 pixels. Contract by 16 pixels. And then feather by 64. And that's in contrast to my normal selection for most things is to expand by 4 and feather by 16. So this is the expanded and feathered selection, and then I just change the levels until it looks about the same. And then if I remove the selection, it's not too bad. Yeah, I mean, now that you know where it was, you can kind of see there's an artifact there. But that's what I did on this image that eventually turned into this one. So just wanted to share that little technique. Yep. So that's it on that one.
So that's a Photoshop technique.
Yeah, Photoshop. Yeah, Photoshop. Yeah.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just changing topics but if you're still, are you done?
Well, I was looking to see what else I had loaded up here. So,
Oh, yeah.
what was I trying to show here? This was the Orion mosaic. And I don't remember what my point was on this one. So go ahead, Hi. Just backing through the steps.
I was gonna let's see, share Bruce asked about an image, and so I had one that I did a few weeks ago. There's let me just find the share button. Where is that again? Present now. Yeah. There's a big problem with the image. The problem is that I did this and I was really happy with it. Can you guys see the galaxy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was really happy with this, and then I shared it with Francesco, and he processed it better than me. So I wasn't thrilled with that. But what are you going to do, right? But I was happy with the image anyway. So, and my goal, but I don't know, I have this kind of, I don't know, I can't get anything done when I'm all at home with this COVID thing. So, but my goal is, Francesco shared his processing techniques, and I'm going to try to copy him and see if I can get it to where it is. But even the way it currently is wasn't too bad. So I guess what I liked about it was, I thought M106 down there at the bottom is a pretty dim small galaxy, but yet my 4-inch scope, it worked, there's plenty of detail, looks nice, and it's sort of a nice composition with those smaller red and blue star on top, and the whatever galaxy that is there. Lots of little galaxies. Anyway, so like I say, I was happy with the image, and at this scale, it looks okay. If you zoom into it, it's on my Astro bin. If you zoom into it, you'll see some artifacts from the way I processed it, but I can tell now that, maybe Francesco can share, but that it is possible to process it so it actually doesn't have those little artifacts. That's all.
Very nice. Beautiful.
I think it was a nice, I liked this idea of doing the body processing, sharing the files, and then after that, sharing the actual projects. So apart from the 3 hours needed to upload the project to Google Drive, it was a very nice experience.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's true that we buddy processed, I processed. Francesco had one that I processed of his, and he had, and I sent him my files, and he processed mine, and we traded them and looked at each other's work. It was a good experience for sure. I do recommend that. Yeah.
Very nice. Hi.
Thanks.
Okay, so I found the machinist's information, and actually it's not Michael's, it's Nick's. His name is Nicholas. His number is 408-832-7606. And he's on DeGiulio Avenue, 1059 DeGiulio Avenue in Santa Clara. So if anybody needs any machining, he's a very nice guy.
Shoot me a note on that.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe just send an email to the group.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll put it on.
That's your proof, and that's your proof that you told us, and you get your free stuff in the future.
Yeah, I'll get my commission. So, who else would like to share some stuff? I know Francesco has had some very nice images lately.
Let me see if I can find how to share. Present now. Your screen. All right. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. This is my version of Hi's image. So the crop is slightly different, but don't pay attention to that. The colors are different because I use the PCC And in general, I tried to limit the.
Hey, Francesco, you can just present that one screen instead of presenting your whole desktop, just FYI.
Okay, how do I do that?
It was one of the options on present.
Present all or present a window.
All right, let me try again.
Yeah.
Okay, present. I only have the option of presenting the entire screen here.
Okay, well, sorry.
That's okay. And we're back. Okay, let me expand it to the whole screen so you only see that. Yeah. Is it still showing to you?
Yes.
Okay. I'm never sure when it's a full screen. So anyway, this hides data and my processing. And there is a project that I'm currently working on, and it's NGC 2903. I'll be taking 2 more hours tonight, but for now I have this. So this is a small spiral galaxy in Leo, and it's of course because of COVID I'm imaging from the balcony, so Bortle 7. So it will take more time. After tonight, hopefully I will have 10 hours, and it should be a little bit better, but not an earth-shattering difference. I've been trying to use. I don't know if you guys bought Rogelio's book, the new one, the Mastering PixInsight. So I'm trying to use some of his suggestions in my workflow, but in the end, I see that one of the tools that were most effective for me to integrate in my workflow was Arnet++. So thanks to Rob, who prepared the plugin for PixInsight, I can do it directly from the application instead of doing it from with a command line tool. And we did some experiments. We also found how to run it on macOS without, even on Catalina, without problems. But yeah, there's still work to do there on Juan's part. And I think that's, since the last time I saw all of you guys, I probably also processed this one. This is the third, the lesser known of the, the lesser known of the bright nebula in Auriga. So this is IC 417. So lesser known than IC 405 and IC 410, the Flaming Star Nebula and the Tadpoles. But still, it's I think the nickname for this one is the Fly and Spider. This being the spider, and this one is supposed to be the fly. This is 10 hours. There's lots of noise because of the Bortle 7 sky. So we have to do what we have to do in this moment. But I had in the past had better results from these skies. I'm happy in particular about my monkey head from February, from the same sky. It's I think 6.5 hours, but there's much less noise. Maybe I was luckier and there were better skies when I collected this data. And the month before that, I collected the same data for the same object that Glenn also showed, which is IC 443, the Jellyfish Nebula, and this is my version of it. That's it. And right now, as you can see, can you see my PixInsight?
Yes.
Yeah. Right now, I was trying to find the right weight expression for the 127 frames that I have so far collected about NGC 2903. And tonight, with any luck, I will have 30 more. And probably I will call it done, because after that, there's next day with clear skies. There will be a pretty bright moon, so that's probably it for this month for me.
How about your contribution to AstroBin?
Oh yeah, I don't think I can. We can really see it here, but I had For a long time, I've been less than excited about the fact that Astrobeam, even if you have a retina display or a 5K monitor, it shows images at 72 dots per inch. And the most other image hosting sites do much better than that. So they typically render a high resolution image and they scale it down so that your display, if it's capable of high DPI, renders a much better image. And I had to complain about this to Salvatore to no avail. So at some point I decided to take the matter in my hands, and I first developed an extension for Safari, one for Chrome and one for Firefox, that would replace the image with a high resolution counterpart on the fly, on client side only. And then at that point I sent it to Salvatore saying, hey, take a look at how much better your site could be. And he actually liked it. And so he asked me if I could take a look at the source code so that I could be more effective in doing that. It's still a client-side substitution of the image, but there are a number of hints that the server sends to the client, the web browser in this case, to do the substitution. So if you notice in the last 10 days that the apparent quality of the images shown in Astrobeam in the images, what he calls the technical card, has improved, it's probably because of the code contribution that I sent him 10 days ago. And he reviewed it, he asked me for some modifications, and ultimately accepted and rolled it out not last weekend, but the previous one.
Bravo.
Thanks.
Yeah, bravo. Yeah, thank you.
I'm not sure that he has implemented it in the code yet, because I still see, if I'm not hovering my mouse cursor over, or my mouse pointer over the image in the technical card, I see it in the higher resolution. And then if I hover over it, I see it goes back to the default lower resolution.
So the reason for that is that when you hover the mouse, Astrobeam shows you the plate solved version with the annotations.
Okay.
Even if you don't do it, Astrobeam still shows you a pre-prepared version that is supposed to have the overlays. And that pre-prepared version has low resolution, no matter what I can do. There's no high resolution version of that image. So I cannot do the trick to substitute it. The only solution would be, so you can, if you have an ultimate subscription, you know that now that there's new level, and you do the advanced plate solving, then it's actually an SVG overlay, and it retains the same quality of the image. But if you use the old style astrometry.net overlay, then you should probably make some changes in the way the image is processed after it's returned from astronometry.net.
So the people who are looking at it don't have to have the ultimate, but if you have the ultimate, it translates to their side. Yeah.
So if you look at my images, I have an ultimate trial subscription, and you should see that there's no change in the resolution when you hover the mouse. The overlay comes in, but it doesn't change the image resolution.
Okay.
I doubt that I can share. I mean, I think that if I share my screen, it would still only a 72 dpi version of my screen would be rendered on yours. So it's probably pointless if I do it.
Okay. I'm taking a look.
Anybody else bought Rogelio's book?
I did. I haven't had a chance to look at it too much. So I brought up your Pac-Man.
Yeah.
From a couple of years ago, and as the technical card came into, as it filled, initially the image looked soft, but
Yes.
after a couple seconds, it filled in with the higher resolution image. So
Yeah, because it's loaded dynamically, so that at first there's a if that's not the image that you wanted, if you're quick and flip to another image or go back, you don't need to waste your bandwidth downloading the high resolution one.
Okay. Very
And
nice.
Salvatore was very keen on having that. He didn't want me to just replace the image from the start. He wanted first to render a low resolution version and then replace it with the high one.
Okay.
Yeah, Francesco, I bought Rogelio's book. There were like two parts to it. I started looking at the reference section because I thought it was pretty useful as kind of as a manual for a lot of the functions in the book. Because I don't think PixInsight has an official manual.
Yeah, right.
And, I didn't look at the other part. I guess it just has more general processing steps. But so far it looks pretty well written. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it.
I think I also, when I bought the paperback version, when of course when it will be ready, I think it's going to be a monumental tome because it's 400 pages plus the reference guide. So
I got the book recently and I am thrilled with it.
Yeah.
I'm a beginner at PixInsight. After months, I'm still a beginner, but boy, this is so much better than the Inside PixInsight book that I was suffering with. For one thing, he takes 3 separate passes at teaching you. The first one is for beginners, and he keeps things simple and depends on the defaults and pushes you right through it. And then he comes back in the second pass and goes into more detail. So you don't have to read all 800 pages to get going.
Mm-hmm.
I brought a picture. I'm working on a picture.
Okay.
I didn't, when I went to find the latest version of it, I couldn't come up with it. But I will bring it up if I can. And this is like from 2 days ago. I've got a better one now, but this story is the same. Let's see if this works. Can you see this picture?
It's starting to share. Yes, it's coming up.
Yep. Ooh.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I posted something about this Comet Atlas, and I thought that sounds interesting. I looked it up, and I then made a point of getting out to shoot it. I don't have a telescope. I'm using Nikon D5600 with a 300 millimeter lens. It's a crop sensor camera, so it does have it's not adequate for a comet, but it's good enough. The field of view is 3 degrees by 4.5 degrees. And I was processing this on a laptop, which was extremely slow and painful. So I got the idea, well, when I'm all done with this, I'm going to crop this way down. So I said, why not crop it before wasting a lot of time on the computer? So I used the crop process, and I went through and cropped 63 images by a factor of about 12. And that speeded up everything by a factor of 12. So that was just an amazing improvement. And since then, just in the last week, I got a hand-me-down desktop computer, and I've been working on that and speeding it up. So I am going to master this. This picture was done first in PixInsight through the weighted batch processing and a couple of more processes after that. And then I took it to Photoshop and made this image. This is aligned on the stars. And so what you see there for the comet is 2 hours of movement of the comet, all blurred together. There's another picture, if I can figure out how to bring it up. I have no idea what to do here. Let me push escape and see if I can, if I close that. Now there's nothing.
I think you minimized it.
I did minimize it. I'm trying to get the other picture.
Hmm.
Let's see. Any ideas? I'm going to stop presenting and start again.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, now I start again. And I'm going to present a window. And I'm going to get a new chance. Can you see that?
Nope.
Do you see a picture?
No, only you.
Okay. Share an application window. Well, that's too bad. This is the first time I have ever used this Meet app, and so I don't know how to change windows.
Do you want to try sharing your whole screen instead of a window then?
Okay, that's a good idea. Do you know how to switch to that?
You stop sharing and say stop presenting and say present whole screen.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the picture that I want. Do you see a picture?
Nope.
Not yet.
You don't see a picture?
You're not sharing your screen yet.
We see you.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, here we go.
Yes.
Do you see a picture?
Yes.
Yep, we do.
We see the comet.
Okay. Yes. I use the PixInsight process Comet Alignment to align on the comet. And you can see now the stars are streaks. You take your images that are aligned on the stars and use those as input to Comet Alignment. And you click on the first image and the first image in the sequence time-wise, and use your mouse to tell the process exactly where the center of the head of the comet is. Then you do that again with the last image in the time sequence, and the Comet Align process uses the times recorded in each image to interpolate where between the position of the first image and the position of the last image. It uses that to interpolate, to figure out where that image, how much it should be shifted. And so this is what a comet actually looks like without the blur. Unfortunately, the stars are blurred. This is a double challenge. First, you get the two images, then the challenge is to eliminate all of the stars. And I'm working on that. And I spent the day in working on the new computer. so maybe next month, I maybe even tomorrow, but I know we only do this once a month. So when I get this, when I finally finish this processing, I'll show it with round stars and the true image of the comet. This was, we're locked down now, and I can't go to a dark site. Where I live, in order to see the northern part of the sky, to see north at all, I have to go out to the driveway. I can see 3 street lights from my driveway. And I live in Menlo Park. The sky is, of course, awful. But what are you going to do? I said it would be better just to, if nothing else for practice, just to go through the motions of taking a picture, even in a lousy sky. And maybe if you get enough images, maybe you'll get a decent image. So I had altogether about 90 minutes of exposures. And it's a chance to learn how to use the rig, and it's a chance to learn how to use PixInsight. So it's been a good experience, and I'll tell you more about it next month.
Fantastic. Well done.
Steve, I assume you know that there's this technique, there's a chapter on it in Rogelio's book.
Yes, I've read the chapter, and I've read 2 or 3 other descriptions of how to do this. It's just a matter of actually mastering it. This picture here is one of my early attempts to eliminate the stars. And I have used, in addition to having already cropped this down to speed things up, I also can make a region of interest that just includes a small part of this around the comet and a few of these star streaks. And I can process this with my new hand-me-down desktop computer. I can process one of those in about 10 seconds through the Comet Alignment process. So it's, I'm kind of at the point of experimenting with it until I get it right. And this picture is from 2 days ago. Sorry, I don't have a better one. One of the challenges of having a new desktop computer is sometimes I'm not on the right, I don't have the images on the right computer. So I'm using my laptop for this. I've made a point of installing almost no software on the new desktop so that I won't be competing all the time. And I have just installed today solid state drive, which so I'm up to about 2.5 times the speed of my laptop. And I've got 32 gigabytes of RAM coming on Thursday. So I will soon be speeding along. And I love the new book, but it's still a challenge for a beginner to work through this.
And by the way, if anybody is using this technique, you definitely wanted to use at least the PixInsight 1883, because previous version had a bug in the Comet registration, and I submitted a fix for this bug and was incorporated in 1883.
Well, I am using the latest version, but
perfect.
That just a matter now of working through it.
That's really fantastic, Steve. Thanks. I'm very happy to see that. I was wondering if anybody knows any details about when this new comet, Comet Swan, might be visible in the Northern Hemisphere. Unfortunately, Comet Atlas Y4 2019, I think it is, coming apart at the seams, and I'm not sure how long we'll be seeing it. It's not going to meet up to the predictions that it might be visible at daytime, I think, this month. but we have a new comet that was discovered recently, Comet Swan.
The Swan Comet, I think Wayne mentioned it in the discussion group recently, and I should thank Wayne for giving the instructions on how to add a comet to Stellarium, which I use. I did that. I had no problem with that doing Atlas, but when I went to Swan, it wasn't in the database yet. So that was about a week ago, probably time to check again. And at that time, I did look on the internet to see where it was. And at that time, it was only visible, I think, from the southern hemisphere. But it is coming north fast.
Okay. Another opportunity for a nice comet. I'm actually excited. All I need are clear skies. We'll see. Anybody else have anything they wanted to share?
So speaking of Stellarium, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I could share some images of some things I've been trying out. Let's see if this present thing works. Let's see here. You guys see this? All right, so I've been trying out night vision tech.
Cool.
So this is it's called a Mod 3 C mount, and it's made by AB Night Vision, and it's right here in the middle. Between there's a Sony camera here on one end, and then there's a lens on the other end. And for those who aren't familiar with night vision, what it does is it takes the incoming photons, and then it multiplies it by, I think, something like a factor of like 80,000 or a big number. So then when you look on the rear end through the ocular, a lot of things that would be invisible to the naked eye are now sufficiently amplified to actually quite bright. There's a bit of scintillation, meaning like you'll see it kind of like sparkle, but just from the parking area where I live, I'm sure I can easily see like mag 6 or 7, and this is from even with like city lights or street lights all around. It helps to block a little bit of the glare by using you can make your own kind of like dew shield, and you can certainly connect it with like a lens or something. I can zoom in here a little bit, but I think in the front of this is a C mount, which is not something we use in astronomy, but you can convert from the C threads to like a 2-inch adapter and put it into the focuser of a telescope. Or you can, there's other adapters to like, here I have it directly connected to a Nikon lens. So it's, the lens I think is 180 millimeter focal length. It's an f2.8. So it's basically like a 64 millimeter refractor operating at f2.8. So with night vision, because it's basically a real-time view. So there's no like long exposure of any kind. So you want to be able to gather as much light as possible. So having like a fast focal ratio is a big advantage. So like f4 or something or under, you can really start to see nebula. You can, in the bright suburbs, I'll show a photo in a moment, but I was able to get the Rosette Nebula to show up pretty well. It's quite large in the sky, actually. It's really amazing. Looking at it through, even through at 1x without a lens, it looks massive. Like I think it feels like it's larger than the full moon. Pretty easy to find it just by kind of scanning it around. And remember, you're getting kind of almost like a real-time view. There's almost no lag, because it's something that the military would use you know, when they're out at night, covertly. I think it has about a 40-degree apparent field of view, so it's a little bit less than most eyepieces. So it's like looking through a Plossl, or less than a Plossl. And I have it here mounted on just on a generic tripod with a dwarf star mount. So it's pretty light, and then, you know, it has 100-millimeter rings kind of gripping the lens. And then on the back side is the eyepiece. But now, in this case, I have my camera threaded onto it. There's some adapters where you can hook the lens up to the back side. But there's also, a lot of people use like smartphones to take photos, and those work amazingly well. You can get like a standard digiscoping smartphone adapter to just try to grip the head of the eyepiece, and then just position your phone correctly. And there's some apps out there that will let you like do a slightly longer exposure on your phone, you know, like up to like a second. I think in this case I was shooting exposures at about a second. Let me see here. Yeah, so here's the Rosette Nebula. I think there's a lot better photos of this on the night vision forums on cloudy nights. But this was done, yeah, in like just right here in where I live in Saratoga, and city. You know, there's the complex I live in has lights in all directions. So I'm impressed that I'm able to see it even. Oh, and another thing is I have an HA filter in the imaging train. I think it's a 7-nanometer HA filter, and that's required to bring this out. Without it, you would definitely lose this object to the bright skies. So and this is probably, let's see if there's information here. Okay, so it was it was 2 seconds, f5.6, 70-millimeter focal length on my Sony camera, and ISO 3200. I shrunk it down to a smaller size just so I could, for easier sharing. But yeah, that's with my Sony f5.6 lens. I'm sure like smartphones can shoot a little bit faster focal ratio than that. So this 2 second exposure might end up being more like a quarter second or something. But yeah, I just got this recently, so I'm hoping I'd be able to try it out some more. And you know, once everything opens up, try out some more challenging objects. I looked at globulars before, and those look really amazing. Globulars resolve really well, almost like photographs. I've tried. Let's see. Galaxies are a little bit harder because they tend to they don't benefit as much from the filters. I think maybe in darker skies, galaxies might look really nice, like M51 or M101, like maybe that spiral structure. But I think in brighter skies, you can see a lot of different emission nebula with the right HA filters, and then with and just for like general stargazing, you can put on a long pass filter. I think 685 nanometers is what's recommended. So that basically cuts out like the vast majority of the city lights, and then, you know, gives you everything kind of in the near infrared, which still is quite a lot. You can see, like, you know, probably all the open clusters, Messier globulars will probably come out really well. So I have a couple other things to show. This is NGC 2442, and I think it might be a Southern Hemisphere object. I have to check. But I didn't capture this myself. I got this from telescope.live, and it's I attended AIC last year, and they were one of the booths there, and they were giving away some credits for people who would sign up. I think being in the beta program, I got a pretty generous amount of credits. And then once I gave them some feedback about how I felt the tool work. They gave me even more credits, so I ended up getting like a good 5 or 6 images out of it, and then I've been processing that while we're in quarantine. But yeah, this might have been done with the, I'm thinking it was a Ritchie-Chrétien with, maybe that's why there's these diffraction patterns. But yeah, they have telescopes in some pretty dark skies, in like Chile and elsewhere, high altitude. So I think the pricing is quite expensive in that. It's something like, probably comes out to something like $1 a minute for their cheapest scopes, and then like $3 a minute for some of the higher end stuff. So you're looking at a couple $100 for like an hour of exposure. But since you're in really dark skies, you can get pretty good quality. But yeah, if you participate in the beta program, you'll get 4 or 5 images out of it. And then let's see, I have one more. Oh, this is the dark Doodad Nebula. So I think one of the things I wanted to try in darker skies were like dark nebula. So those are almost impossible in bright skies. This one came out decently. I think my processing skills are still relatively beginner. I think I had some help from Hai. He gave me a bunch of steps on how to process, which I think I might have one of those results here. Ah, yes, this was M8182, I think, from some help from Hai. But yeah, I'm going to be working on processing a bit more in the coming weeks and figuring out if I can bring out a little bit more depth to this dark nebula. Instead of just making it like really dark, maybe there's some things I can do to give it a little bit of a shape. But yeah, that's I think that's everything I had. Any questions, or anybody else here has tried out night vision or has ever looked through one?
I was down at Pinnacles a couple of years ago, and somebody did have one set up, and it was pretty cool. I work with a guy who uses it a lot, but not for astronomy. He just likes to. He's kind of like a paramilitary type, but he does have some night vision stuff, and he knows what I do for my hobby, and he was recommending that I check it out, and I haven't had a chance to do anything lately with it, but he was saying that they have some full color night vision that actually is pretty impressive. Is that monochromatic, or it's hard
yeah, it's monochromatic. They have you can get them. You can get like green phosphor or white phosphor. So I think mine's white, which actually is more of a kind of like a dull blue.
Mm-hmm.
I think the white ones are a little bit pricier. They're also a little more popular, especially for astronomy. I think looking at a green one, maybe that can kind of saturate your cones of that color after a little while. Mm-hmm. But I had the chance to try out one of these a few months back, and you can definitely put. I created a color image out of one, and by putting RGB filters somewhere in the imaging path, like I guess before you get to the night vision device, and then you convert your images to monochrome. You shoot RGB, convert to monochrome, and then you do your standard integration. RGB combination, and it actually works. And I think the advantage of doing it this way is you can get away with shorter exposures. Like maybe if you're not guiding or you're not tracking, even you might be able to get away with that and still get out an astro image. You can probably do narrowband with really short exposures, provided your camera is sensitive enough. Like I did the Rosette there with a fraction of a second. But I think I might have to set up some kind of manual filter wheel or something so you don't have to break apart the imaging train every time you're doing that. But it's possible, like with the RGB filters. I don't know if there's a way to view it in real time night vision. That would be, I have no idea how that would work. But maybe someone can invent that.
Well, there's something similar that we've been doing with live stacking, where you can get a color image from narrowband. I I have some examples here actually of the Rosette as well, just because that's what was up. But as part of the whole COVID thing, you know, I've been working with Jerry, who's our president now of SJAA, on, you know, getting ready to do virtual star parties. So we are figuring out how, you know, we could, the imaging side of the house could help by showing images while the visual observers host the star parties the way they normally do. So that's what we've been doing, and Bruce and I have both done some live stacking in monochrome, and then if you have one-shot color, you can do it in sharp cap. And then I figured out a way with some software called Astro Toaster, not Astro Tortilla, but Astro Toaster, how to do it using Deep Sky Stacker Live and narrowband filters. So if I can grab the,
So
are
is
you
it,
done,
is it
Joe?
like,
Can I grab the?
yeah, go ahead. You can present. So would it then be shooting through each filter, like in a kind of a round robin style, and then
Yeah,
that
so I'll show you the example here. So this color image here of the Rosette was SGP, just like you would normally use it, except it was doing 30-second exposures, and in a, you know, a round robin versus finish an entire event. So it was, you know, doing HA, S2, O3 in a repeating pattern. And then that's what this Astro Toaster software does, is it keeps track of all that and does 3 separate stacks using DSS Live, and then it assembles them all automatically. So this color image here was, you know, the longer you do it, the better it looks. But this was after about 7 minutes from, you know, slew to this color image. So that was pretty exciting to be able to do that quickly. And then what you see below it here is just a sharp cap live stack of an HA filter, and that was 15-second exposures. So that just a couple minutes after slewing to the object, then able to show that to people on a screen. So that's a way that we can use our traditional imaging rigs to show things rapidly, as if we had, you know, a video camera or something instead. Of course, you could put the camera in video mode, but you know, these are ways of using the narrowband filters and the whole thing. So.
So if you wanted to use flats with that, would you be subtracting the flats as you do the live stack for each thing in SharpCap, or using the flats somehow in DSS, or how would that work?
Yeah, I believe I didn't. These are uncalibrated, but I know in SharpCap you can have darks and flats. I have to look at Astro Toaster again, but I'm pretty sure it probably does have that capability. But I don't know that it's really needed just to get something up on the screen. But I can look for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then something else sort of on the same topic, switch windows here. You know, we've been watching what some of the other astronomy groups have been doing, and the Royal Astronomical, whatever it is, Canada, I forget how you say the acronym, but they did a whole bunch of stuff using Stellarium, and so we're going to try to take advantage of Stellarium. And so one of the things that I did as a excuse to get out of the house was I went to, can you see the Stellarium screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this, I went to both RCDO and Mendoza, and I'm brightening this up here. So now here we have, get this window to move. So here's RCDO as a landscape in Stellarium, so you can see where your sight lines are and whatnot. And then since I was already down there, and by the way, this place was jumping, the parking lot was full, and there were people hiking and biking and doing all the normal stuff, but they just had a lot of instructions from the Open Space Authority tech about staying 6 feet apart and all of that stuff. And similarly, I went to Mendoza, and it was the same thing. That was that people were doing all kinds of stuff at Mendoza. So again, if I brighten this up, oh, it's already bright. Okay. So here's what it looks like from Mendoza. So we'll have these available for the people that run star parties to put in their stellariums, and I can share these with whoever. And we also have, I had done earlier, Little Uvis, and what else? Hoagie Park. Here's the sidewalk where they normally do the star parties there. You can see how old this is because it's my old Z there. But so we have these backgrounds that are landscapes that people can put in Stellarium.
Very cool. And it definitely will help with your sight lines. I'm actually wondering if I can integrate these into the SkyX for my scope limits. I know there are ways to add images and to use it to do your limits, but I don't know how. So maybe we can figure that out.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that. I mean, obviously, I've got the instructions in the Stellarium manual now, the chapter I wrote on getting images into Stellarium for DSOs. So that's doable, definitely in Stellarium. Yeah, I haven't played with the SkyX. Okay.
Anybody else?
Question is, anyone, and I don't know if this was mentioned earlier, is anyone able to do any observing from anywhere during this time other than, say, their own driveway, their own yard, or remote observing?
I normally image from here in Union City, and it's a Bortle 7 or 8 or whatever. But I just have a rule of thumb that I do 10 hours per filter, and then it's mostly narrowband, and then it's okay. But yeah, that's a lot of time, but that's what it takes.
What's been going up at Casa de Rob lately, Rob?
Sorry, my mic was on mute. Not too much. I have an image I've been working on, but it's on my other computer, and I wasn't ready. Mainly, I've been doing protein folding simulations for Rosette at home and folding at home. And as some of you know, Francesco and I have been messing around with the StarNet stuff, and I don't know, there are ways to make it work on the latest version of PixInsight and the latest version of Mac OS, but I guess the ball has been in Juan's court for a while. So supposedly when he releases the next version of PixInsight, it should start working again, but we'll just have to find out.
Okay. Well, I sure hope so. It's a great tool.
Yeah. I mean, the main computer that I use, I have some of that stuff turned off, the security stuff. So I never noticed that it was a problem. And then somebody on Cloudy Nights was complaining, and then, but, like I said, we figured out that if you build the PixInsight binary a certain way, it should work. But I guess Swan has been busy doing something and he hasn't released it. So theoretically, when he releases the -6, we hope will start working again.
And in any case, Bruce, if you are in a pinch and you need to use it, there are ways to make it work.
Oh yeah,
that wouldn't be recommended to the general public, but among us,
PSR-util disable. We'll get what's the name of the security protocol that prevents you from using things sometimes.
No, it's not that bad.
You just need to remove one's signature from the binary, which is a simple command, and macOS will complains the first time. After that, it will let you do it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
but if you have a hacker nearby that comes and replaces your PixInsight binary with the most malicious code, you will never know.
Yes, well, hopefully not. That reminds me, though, you redid Red Screen so that it would work with.
Same. It's the same stuff.
Same thing. Okay, very cool. Okay. What's going on?
There was one thing that I forgot to mention that might fit in with the photo multiplier stuff that Joe was doing, which is I found this app, it's actually a pretty awful app for the iPhone called Milky Cam, I think, and it's essentially like Deep Sky Stacker Live. So it takes somewhat longish images and then aligns them, I guess, internally, and then stacks them, so you sort of get a real-time image out of it. But the user interface is terrible, and it's I'm not even sure I know how to use it. I managed to make an image of Orion that's nothing to write home about, but and I'm fairly certain that the Android phones are way ahead on this kind of night photography anyway, so it may not be anything really useful, but if you have an iPhone, it's something to check out. It's a free app, so I guess what do you got to lose?
It's called Milky Cam, you said?
Yeah. I mean, I have an image on my Milky Cam, and he's got another one that's similar called Spiral Cam, which is meant to be used at the eyepiece versus being used, just the back of the phone camera pointed at the sky. So check it out. But they're a little painful, but it's at least something to try.
Well, maybe somebody will develop something a little better. Milky Cam. I found it. Milky Cam astrophotography.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know if I can successfully share my screen, but I can show you the image that I took. It's really not that great. You know what? Because of my window manager stuff, I'm not sure I can do this. Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
PJ, looks like you're out at your observatory or something, huh?
That's correct.
What do you?
But that sounded like a curse word.
Yeah. Wasn't me. I'm trying to get the QHY thing to work with the SkyX. Yes, and frankly, I get confused easy out here.
Regarding using the ASCOM driver for it?
Come on.
Damn, it must be bad out there, PJ. Hey, I got a question while we're waiting. Okay, skies aren't too bad tonight. What should I image?
Yeah, I guess that's my question right now. I was going to try and shoot M101, I think. 'Cause I've wanted to do it. I haven't done it with the 6-inch yet.
Yeah, it's behind a tree for me.
Yes, well, I got plenty of trees, but M101 is good. I have a pretty good southern horizon, pretty good eastern horizon. I'm pretty obscured from the northwest to the northeast, which was kind of deliberate on my part because it blocks off the big town in these parts 20 miles away. So pretty much I have pretty close to an all sky view, and I'm on a ridge. And but I'm sheltered. The wind's not ever a problem here. Snow can be. But I think we're through with that. So I'm out here with my Samsung phone as a hotspot tether. I don't have internet out here. Let's see, where the hell did everybody go? Oh, there we are.
We're there.
Oh, yeah. So I'm trying to sort these things out. Right now I'm trying to do a plate solve, and for some reason doesn't like me. I don't know. I can do this. I don't need exposure, do I?
I have to wait till 320 for my target, but using a 200 millimeter lens, I'm going to be trying this Butterfly Nebula and the Crescent in one frame.
Oh, that's nice.
So we'll see how that goes. But again, yeah, I'll be looking for 10 hours per filter. So this will be the first of several nights.
Huh. Yeah. Where the heck did it go? I don't know, man.
Speaking of the camera lens, Paulo had pointed out to me this new product. Let me jump back in here again. Both of us had previously built sort of do-it-yourself focusers for camera lenses, but somebody now has a commercial product that is a better mousetrap. So this is, if you've got like a Canon lens and a ZWO camera, you may be familiar with the adapter that ZWO makes that has pieces you can add or subtract to account for the filter wheel or no, and put a 2-inch filter in. But these guys have added the electronics so that using an ASCOM driver and a USB cable, you can focus the lens using the motor in the lens that was intended for that. So it's kind of cool. And so I gave these guys are in Russia and they're brand new, but I gave it a shot. And where's my email window here? Very first light got a good V curve, and it seems to work really well. So I'm pleased. So they have this Astromechanics. They have both for crop sensor and now full frame with Canon lenses, and then they have adapters for various different cameras. So just FYI, so far I'm really pleased. They also, they also make a light sensor that I was going to buy, and they wrote me back today and said we've got a new version coming out. So why don't you wait a couple months and we'll tell you when the new version is here. So I'm probably going to check that out as well. Somebody had a question?
Do you know the modification that they are planning to that sensor?
No, he just said it was a new.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, a new version. Makes you wonder what was wrong with the first one.
Exactly my point.
Yeah. But as you know, it's just an Adreno inside, and I think it's just got two active components. The sensor, well, and counting the display, 3, I guess, but it's pretty simple. But the price is reasonable to where, you know, with the packaging and everything.
Yeah.
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 Oh, almost dropped my water glass there. Okay.
Where did you come across that, Glenn?
Hmm?
Where did you? How did you find that? Did you get it in Astronomy Technology Today, or?
Paulo found it.
No, searching for Canon focusing. And on the net.
Very interesting. And does that reads out in mags per arc second, I guess?
Yeah. They have a bit of collateral on the website. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I saw that they have also the adapter for the filter, so you can use the 1600 plus the filter wheel.
Oh, the focuser, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using it with the filter wheel. But Bruce and I have determined that's going to be part of tonight's imaging. Is it looked like I had some coma, and I observed that when it came to focus, it was downstream, sort of to the left of the infinity mark on the camera. So that probably is an indication that the spacing isn't perfect. So I added a 3D printed spacer, and I think it's going to put the focus back on the infinity mark. We'll see here in a minute, and we'll check it out. So I added about 1.6 millimeters.
Hello. That extension that you made for my top, it really did the trick. And that material that you made that out of, ASA, or?
Yes, it is ASA.
Okay.
That's a sort of ABS.
Yeah, it's smoother than the stuff that the carbon fiber stuff, and less porous, right? Is it stronger?
I don't know, honestly, in terms of strong compared to the material, the filament that he is using. I think that, Glenn, you are using is a nylon, no?
Yeah, it's nylon with
charged with carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber, yeah.
Okay.
I have some other material with carbon fiber in it too that I never used much. I don't recall what the other material is, though.
Hey, Paolo, do you want to show that mount you made for my guide scope?
The mount that I made for your...
Yes.
I don't have. I don't have. You have.
No, I mean... Okay. So what's your point?
I don't have. I'm quite stuck now because I cannot show anything on the PC because both my two PC, I don't know if they're, because they are Windows 7 or whatever, they were not connecting to the Meet. And I had to run over the phone, and so sorry for the mess before with mute and this and the other, because I simply downloaded the app on the phone and connect with that. But the other two laptops that I had, they were continuing to run and run and run, getting ready, and nothing happened.
If you think it's a Windows 7 problem, you can now upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10 for free.
Yeah.
And
If
I
have,
just, go ahead.
Sorry if I interrupt you. Talking about hand-me-down PC, the two laptops that I'm using are two Sony, top of the line, but 10 years ago. So they are not able to be upgraded because the video GPU are not supported. So I have to completely upgrade the machine.
There
throwing away.
There are it wouldn't work for the laptop screen, but there are USB video cards.
But I don't think that I can upgrade on Windows 10 using a USB window card.
That's could be, yeah, I don't know.
Probably not. Yeah.
Sorry, I have to run to. I have to change the filament. Sorry.
Most of your printing, Glenn, when you're 3D printing, you don't have to babysit much at all, right? It just does its thing.
When it works.
Okay.
When it goes crazy, if your part comes loose from the base or something else catastrophic happens, then yeah, but basically you have to abort at that point and start over usually, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great kind of like astrophotography. It's a great patience teacher, right? I mean, yeah, you can get a prototype part, but you might have to wait 3 hours or 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever.
You do a rough draft first. That's kind of
you're right.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I was better at the CAD and the materials knowledge, right, you could probably nail it in one go. But that's why I'm kind of sticking to, one printer set up for one kind of material kind of thing. But yeah.
But I mean, you can print very fast and you can print slower and higher quality.
Oh
right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So in the ASA fine threads, we've been printing it at like 0.08 millimeter layers, whereas quick and dirty would be like 0.2 millimeters or something, or 0.3.
Okay. What do they call it? The warm head or the hot end? Do those wear out? Are there
The
parts?
nozzles, the nozzles get clogged, and if you're using filament with stuff in it, like carbon fiber or bits of metal or wood or something, then you might need a nozzle made out of a harder material. Steel or even sapphire instead of brass. But yeah, you just change the nozzle. They're not that expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole process to learn all the ins and outs of it and stuff. Lots of YouTube out there on 3D printing.
Yeah. I'm changing the filament in this very moment.
It's blue.
Yeah, it's blue.
Oh, you're printing for COVID, you're printing the...
Yeah, that's the bottom of the face shield.
Yeah. Bruce uses those at work.
I've been seeing a lot of those at work, a lot of that type of thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much there, so let's go some other place.
I'm printing 28 at a time.
Are you sending any of them to Kaiser Permanente?
Yes, but not directly, but through Maker Nexus. That is a group that is, let's say, collecting that. And now we are printing only the bottom part because finally they put together injection molding. So the top part they are producing with injection molding, and they're producing 1,000 a day. And so we need a lot of lower part because that lower part is too complicated to injection molding fast. And so need to be printed. And it's going 24 hours, one plate after the other.
I'm with Rob. I'm doing folding at home as my contribution. So I have all the computers in the house and the shed and the telescope are all folding proteins.
Tell us something about that. Not really astronomy related, but I am interested.
Yeah, it's pretty painless. It makes your fans run, and I had to adjust the number of CPU slots for my various fanless computers to not overheat and stuff. But yeah, it's been pretty smooth.
Yeah, I went off and bought 3 of kind of last year's high-end GPUs and put them in a couple of computers. And the folding at home project has a bunch of GPUs,
yeah.
COVID-19, and those things really tear through the work units. I mean, I went from like 1 million points to 22 million points in like 2 weeks. So it's been kind of satisfying. I don't know if it's doing anything. And then, there's this Berkeley distributed computing project that grew out of the SETI at home. And they have a sub-project called Rosette, which is similar to the folding at home. And so that one, for whatever reason, is CPU only. So I've got a bunch of old computers just churning on those. But it's, it's pretty easy to set up. It doesn't take too much work. It's just, the video card stuff is a little fiddly. But, it's not, clear what is happening, right? Because they have these giant projects that they divvy up into 1 million little pieces, and then it probably takes them 2 or 3 weeks or something to collect all the work.
They said that they have more. It's more than all of the top 500 supercomputers added together, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're talking about exaflop level computing,
Yeah.
And in fact, I've run out of work several times.
I have
there's
too.
So many people doing it, which is great. So I hope the researchers are taking advantage of it.
Yeah. So you inspired me to look at my score here. So mine's 5,173,957.
Yeah, but you got to get some GPUs.
I have one. Yeah.
I mean, some of the like NVIDIA 1070, even 2060, they're not that expensive anymore. So actually the real problem is the electricity. I have solar, so the peak time, the electricity is pretty expensive. So I've actually stopped running midday just to, because it's probably costing me like $6-7 a day, I think, all these computers running. So they cut back a little bit.
Cool. Yeah.
I have a 1060 Ti. I don't know how much that would do, but
no, that's I think that can finish typical work unit in like 4 hours, 3 hours. So it's probably worth it.
Okay. Check it out. Glenn, you were working on a project with all sky cameras, meteors. What's up with that?
So two different things. So all sky cameras and the meteor tracking. So I have one camera that does meteor tracking all the time. So it's just pointed at a fixed location in the sky. And you can see it on the web. I think it's CAMS 27, I think is my station number. Yeah, I actually don't do much with it. It just, there's another guy that runs the network, and he logs into my computer and does things and keeps it all running. And I just, you know, my job is just to keep the power on pretty much. But I had, you know, all of their designs for everything are based on CCD cameras that are no longer manufactured, and hard to find parts and everything. So I was bugging them to look at, you know, modern CMOS cameras and USB connections and stuff. And so there was some talk about that, and I was offering my all sky camera as one they said they were interested in. The particular, it's a ASI 178 they were interested in, but then we kind of stopped. The emails stopped flowing, so I'm not sure what happened with that. I had a active USB cable up to the roof and a project box, and apparently it after 2 years it leaked, and so the camera was down for a while. So I haven't reconnected with them after the camera's been back in service. But I can bring up my all sky camera if you want to see that.
Got a clear sky now?
I should. We'll find out in a second here. Let me get it going, and then I'll share it. The RDP into a computer out in the shed. Just manually adjusting the gain here for some reason. Well, I can see the street light.
I can see
almost
people.
there. Yeah, there's some clouds. Okay, present now. A window. Share. So you can see a palm tree here, and this is a street light. But you can see some stars and some clouds.
Do you have cloud detection built into your observatory at all? Or
I do, and I just actually got that going again today. Let me see. The cover is still on the partially on the scope. That would be this window, but I think the cover's off enough. Yeah. Let me switch windows here. Stop presenting. Yeah, so this is actually, I picked up the tip from PJ, is to use an IR camera, essentially an IR temperature pointed at the sky. And I got a little module called a, whoops, I just did the same damn screen again, sorry. Stop presenting. So it's a little 10-degree camera in an IR. Let me make sure I click on the right thing this time. Oh, to scroll. Where is it? There it is. Anyway, it's a little module that speaks USB and has its own web server, and it has both an IR and an ambient temperature sensor. So this top part of text here is just their example web form, and it's showing you here the two temperatures. And I added some JavaScript to do this plot. So the green is the sky temperature, and I think it's probably just still pointing at the scope cover right now, but no clouds would be -10, -20 type of temperature. So yeah, so that's what I look at to see if the reason that PhD2 is unhappy is because there's clouds. I can look at the all sky camera, or I can look at this cloud monitor. But yeah, I can run out there and take the cover off and see if the temperature drops.
So when you're running at night, does it alert you if it looks like rain, or?
Yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with precipitation, but and I haven't taken it any further in terms of alerting me. But one thing it doesn't detect is fog. So apparently fog is different than clouds in the way it reacts in the IR. And I did some research on how airports and stuff detect fog, and it's a little more complicated. It's using lasers and backscatter, and actually bought some parts to make because they're very expensive, these commercial fog detectors, but I never finished that project. One of my 999 unfinished astro imaging projects. But yeah, you need to point a certain nanometer of laser at a certain angle, and have the receiver at the opposite angle. And so you're trying to get the back scatter off the particles of fog. Yeah, because it can be completely cloudy, and it still shows the temperature of the sky as being -10 or -20.
That's too bad. What about what's it called, hygrometer?
Yeah, I have a 5-in-1 weather station. And that's another project is, somebody had written an ASCOM driver, and it's kind of the long way around. The ASCOM driver reads Weather Underground, and you send your data to Weather Underground, and they hook up that way. But Weather Underground, like I guess all the weather apps have been purchased by IBM and stopped being free. So that guy dropped support for it, and it stopped working when they changed the API. And I think I could hack it, but I'm just stuck on basically I haven't done a lot of ASCOM programming, so that's in C#, which I'm also not familiar with, but I think I could get that working again, or I've figured out how to read my weather station via RF. And so I bought a little software-controlled radio, software-defined radio, I think is the term, software-defined receiver. And I've found a program online where you can, it understands my weather station and can get the data. So then again, I would have to write an ASCOM driver to pull that into SGP or something. Or I could just go buy a cloud sensor.
That's too easy.
Commercial cloud sensor be able to detect fog better than what you're doing now?
I don't know. I haven't messed with that. I know they're good at clouds and rain. I don't know about fog. It seems like the only, when I did the research, the only fog detectors were these very expensive $12,000 things for runways.
The laser backscatter things.
Yeah, the laser backscatter, yeah.
Okay. What are they called? Boltwood, the commercially available cloud and rain sensors, I think.
That's a real popular one because it works with ACP, yeah.
Doesn't help with the marine layer, unfortunately, though.
No. Don't think so.
So I was feeling guilty because Paulo wasn't able to show what he made on his printer for me for my guide scope. So I've got some pictures if you want to see them.
Sure.
Yeah. Go for it. While you do that, I'm going to run out and take my cover off my scope.
Okay. So the problem that I had is of a 60 millimeter guide scope, and the mount that it came with has these rings that have centering screws on them with nylon tips on them.
Mm-hmm.
So not the most stable thing in the world. So I looked for quite a while online and couldn't find anything other than nylon tip screws that were going to secure the guide scope. So I asked Paulo if he could throw something together because I knew he had a 3D printer. So this is an Orion 60 millimeter guide scope, and as you can, I don't know if it'll let me. I guess it won't. It isn't really an active app when you bring it up like this, is it?
Should be.
And I can't.
Well, you need to interact with it
on my screen.
Well, it helps if you have multiple monitors, but
yeah,
you interact with it in the app itself versus in the version of the app that's being shared inside Meet.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I could close it and change the picture and show you a different view.
Or just share your screen instead of the app window.
Okay.
And then we get to look at two pictures of everybody.
That'll be fun. There we go. Why is it not? And just do my whole window, entire screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm suggesting, yeah.
Okay. Okay, what are you guys seeing?
Pictures of it.
Drag that out of the way. Yeah, there you
go. But still, okay. I have another way. Hang on a second.
There you go. That should work. Right there.
There you go. That's a side view.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely industrial strength. And this is on a Vixen mount. And that's another side view. That's a ZWO camera that I use for guiding. That works really well. In fact, the whole configuration definitely improved the tracking.
Yeah,
So-
the pieces are joined together with screw, and so are quite precise because are all printed flat.
Yeah.
There is no request for support or other things.
Yeah, well, it definitely made an improvement in my guiding, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a little over-dimensioned, but
It's all right. I like industrial strength. That works fine for me.
Inertially engineered is a good thing.
Yeah. So thanks again, Paulo. Worked well.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's a good way to use the toys, you know.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get that printed out?
A few hours, because the dovetails for the Vixen, I think that was 3 or 4 hours, and the 2 vertical support other 3 or 4 hours. So totally, I think 8 to 10 hours. But you know, it's not a big deal. You launch the print, you go to the bed, and in the morning you find the piece.
Almost like the Easter Bunny had visited, huh?
Yeah, sort of.
What about the design phase?
No, design. I don't know, a couple of hours, 2-3 hours. Using OpenSCAD, me and Glenn, we are using OpenSCAD. That is quite a CAD that is, let's say, strange, because the interface is not a graphical interface, but is a programming interface. So you write actually a sort of pseudo-C code that you have primitives, and so let's say you call routines that are doing cubes, circles, cylinders, and you have operation of those. Differences, union, you have loop with for, and these kind of things, variables, and it's very convenient when you design mechanical pieces, because you define variables with a dimension, and all your design become parametric. So if you want another of those support that instead of 60 millimeters has 65 millimeters, for me is a 2 minutes job to produce a new design.
Yeah. Or an 80 millimeter. You could do an 80 millimeter as well, right?
Yeah, whatever. You can
Yeah.
completely scalable. Of course, it depends to you, like every time you write a piece of code. If you start to embed your code with constant and absolute numbers instead of using variables and parameters, that's the problem. But
yeah, what is the material you used on this?
Again, is a ASA called. Is an ABS. It's like ABS, but it do not degrade with ultraviolets, so can be left outside without problem. Instead, the ABS have some degradation, especially in color and the surface, but not in strength, as far as I know.
Were the bolts thread into the mount? How did you do that? You put an insert in there to capture the screw?
There are inserts, let's say, hot inserted. You insert that with a soldering iron, in order to fuse the plastic around, so they become embedded. So you have the brass insert where you screw the screw.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Solved a big problem.
So if somebody has similar problem, let me know. As soon as I finish to print this COVID stuff, I will be available.
For a nominal fee.
Yeah,
And
nominal fee.
when is your Precise Parts website functionality going to be available?
How did I know that was coming?
I know. Yeah. Elate would be still in my dream, but boy, I always dreamed to own Elate for that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of people strapping big lasers to their 3D printer to turn them into cutters and.
Yeah, but actually, I considered the fact to build a CNC mill in order to have a possibility. You put a motor like a Dremel, sort of, and you have an XY Z structure that is quite easy with 3 tapping motor to produce, and you have software like slicer software that we use for the 3D printing for milling instead, and that is easy to mill a solid plastic or a block of aluminum. It's not so much complicated, and that can produce not things that you can produce like lathe, typical thread, of course, but you can produce a lot of different forms.
Yeah, I've seen. There's a guy named Andy C. That's his handle, I guess, on Cloudy Nights that was talking about how he was milling. Mark Scrivener, actually, I believe he can do that, and he also has the ability to anodize.
Oh,
He has a lathe as well.
That would all come in handy.
He has a woodworking section of his shop and a metalworking section of his shop.
well, an astronomy, a self-respecting astronomy club should own a machine shop.
Great.
We're going to find something to do with that club money yet, huh?
There you go.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
So, Jerry, if you stop sharing for a second.
Sure.
So, Bruce, I ran out and took the cover off, and I'll show you that in a second. So the temperature dropped immediately on the sky, but I wanted to show, here's the dust cover, lens cap, whatever that I printed that's this flexible material.
Oh, wow. Yeah. What's that made out of?
It's called TPU. It's another type of plastic. So,
That's very nice.
yeah. So.
Okay, I got to get one of those things now.
Yeah,
when are you going to get the time to do anything with it?
Right. Well, that's the other issue.
Yeah, glad anyway, I ordered that I should receive in 2 days a new Bowden cable because I want to try the TPU as well. But due to the fact that my printer is running 24/7 with now with PLA, but before with PETG, this high temperature, and my Bowden is, I think, degrading. So I bought.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to work because you do the load filament and then it normally starts extruding right away. but nothing was happening, and I just kept feeding it in there. So I think it was just compressing until it got to a certain it filled up essentially at a certain compression and started working, and then it printed fine from there. So
Okay. Yeah, and that's the reason why I ordered the Capricorn, because they are more precise, and so that we should be less wiggling inside both them. But anyway,
okay.
Off topics. Sorry about.
So Bruce, see, here's where I took the scope cover off, and it dropped almost 10 degrees. So any negative number is going to be an indication of no clouds, and then it'll jump back up. Clouds are warmer than.
I saw that, and I was going to say, gee, it looks like it cleared up suddenly.
Yeah. Any other hobbies? 3D printing? Anybody crocheting or knitting or
Crocheting?
scope covers or?
My wife is constantly suggesting that I take up crocheting instead of astrophotography. I haven't taken her up on it yet.
Why ever would she feel that way?
I don't know. I think my mother-in-law might have suggested it once.
That's it. She's not welcome there anymore, huh?
Yeah. She's pretty much locked up at home anyway, so the way things are right now. But no, I love her. She's great, my mother-in-law.
Well, what do you think?
I think this went very well.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pleased with it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for everybody participating.
I still have to understand why my both machine are not working, but I would figure out.
Next time we're going to get Francesco to start giving classes on how he does all his wonderful processing.
Actually, Francesco. Oh, I think he just ducked out.
Did he just hang up?
No, he's still here.
Disappeared.
Francesco, what do you think? We'd be doing it for the workshop, but online.
We can certainly try. It seemed that when people were sharing pictures, I think that the quality was good. I mean, I didn't feel like we needed more resolution or the refresh rate was bad. So I don't. Technically, I think it can be done.
I think so too. Yeah, we'll put that on our agenda.
We just need to put it on the calendar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah.
And
this was very good. I got my PhD thing going. Got about 1.1 arc-second RMS at the moment, and I'm going to be shooting M101. I got rid of that beep thing. I have a love-hate relationship, mostly hate, with the SkyX.
beeping?
But I'll be taking pictures.
What was beeping on the SkyX, Paul?
Huh?
4-letter words.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I was trying to do an image link. And I didn't get anywhere with that. So I quit that and went back to the sharp cap for the video. At least it has a live view that's actually visible.
I might be able to help you with image link.
Yes, I'm sure anybody could help me with image link. I did do the T-point things and got that all to work.
Oh,
but
good.
that was with a different telescope. I just might break down and do it with a 6-inch. Because they're different, they got different cone errors and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, but I think since we're basically in the new moon period now, I got it so I can take pictures. So I'm going to do that for a while.
All righty.
Yes.
Go for it. Stay warm.
Oh yeah, I got some I got a fair amount of close up. It isn't that. It's warming up now, so it's only in the 40s and high 30s. It really doesn't get much below that unless it's unusual. Notice they've been up here with 6 degrees, which was a lot of fun seeing as how I was running the Canon totally manually, including the exposures. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing your M101 on Astrobin in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be the case, and I'll probably be shipping in I don't know what I'm going to do. I need a different camera for the Rosette. That's all there is to it.
I think the 268 might be a good one. It doesn't seem to have the haloing, but
the T68,
the 268C, or the equivalent made by GWO. Yeah,
about $2,500, huh?
I think they go for around $2,000.
Yeah, okay.
But it is.
Well, it's saving so much money with gas being up here. Let me tell you, I've used about 3/8 of a tank of gas in 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with all this lack of driving out there, it really should work wonders on the transparency, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, that too.
It's going to work wonders on the gas prices too.
I think
yeah,
a little different up here than in San Jose. Nobody's really taking this terribly serious in Tuolumne County because there's only been 2 confirmed cases of COVID, period, in the entire time of the epidemic, and they came from a cruise ship, so go figure.
Well, I was going to say something about you not wearing a mask, so.
Can I get this from Deere? 15 acres I'm rattling around on. Well, I'm sorry you guys can't get out and do some dark sky photography, but I'll try and make up for that for you guys.
Okay.
All right, we're counting on you.
Thank you very much, all of you.
All right.
You.
Good seeing you.
See you next time.
Good to see you.
I'm gonna get out of here myself.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
Take care. Good meeting.
Yep.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Yeah, I can turn off my phone.